Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 34, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. So the first one is Boston Dynamics. Now there's a bunch of these, lots of robots doing lots of dances, and then as you can see, the latest one, they are doing backflips and running along uneven surfaces. But there was an even better video. There were two videos. There was one of them doing the good stuff and another one showing the behind the scenes. Just when you thought every robot is going to be running after you and catching you, even if you can do backflips and run along paving slabs that are at funny angles, you'll be reassured to know that it takes quite a lot of effort to do it, clearly. So lots of leaking robots, lots of hydraulics going pop, and lots of things falling over and damaging themselves. So all is still okay in the humans versus robot war. But it's a fascinating video. Please go and have a look at it because it's pretty amazing. There you go. Over to Facebook. So this is Facebook Horizon Workrooms. So this we've seen probably for the last 5 years, really, in one way or another. So virtual reality, how can we bring people together in a sort of a social media, social network sort of platform? And this is the local one, obviously tackling, now that we've been working from home, or certain industries have been working from home, how can we all work together in a collaborative virtual space? Clearly virtual reality is the way to do it. Now, if you've worn a virtual reality headset for any more than 20 minutes, you'll know this is not going to last particularly long, so it might actually be great for meetings to make them last for maybe only 20 minutes. However, so what you see here are people using virtual reality headsets. You can scan your desktop and you can create your virtual keyboard essentially in reality, and you can type from that point in virtual space, which you're seeing going on right here. You can log into conference calls, you can see real people and all that sort of stuff. So you can collaborate in spaces together and have a good sense of belonging. There you go. You can sign up for it. It is actually a real thing. Go to the website, assuming that you like Facebook, therefore you like Oculus. It is available. There you go. Interesting. Slightly nerdy, slightly weird thing actually, this one. This is all about privacy and the amount of data that is being collated and collected on us, especially through our phones. Now, when you walk around with your phone, that it is connecting to all of the cell towers, for instance, and the Wi-Fi networks, and that is identifying not only your phone but also where you are. It can triangulate your location. So this is obviously useful for you if you need it, but it's also something that all of the phone companies are now collecting on you. Do they use it? Do they sell it? Not at the moment, but they could do. So it is a sort of a leaky bucket, really, shall we say. And there was a recent conference where some researchers showed a different way of doing this, which I thought was really interesting. It's the slightly nerdy rabbit holes that I go down, which I thought I'd bring to you. So what they do is, when you're on your phone has an identification number of its actual device name or device number. It sends that to the telephone company, and the telephone company says, are you allowed to make calls? Have you paid your bills? And it then checks and it says, yes, you are. In doing that, it has to check where you are, a local cell tower, so therefore it can get your location. All that's going on automatically, lots of times, every time you start your phone up and do anything major, for instance. So the new proposed route says there is a separate company that just checks your bill. You tell it your device ID, and it says, can you pay? Yes, no. And then it gives you a token and says this person can pay, it's valid for 24 hours. And then when you need to then check whether you need to make a call or not, all you do is you pass that token over to the telecoms company. So it really creates a sort of a third-party safe harbor that checks your billing status, and therefore the phone companies don't need to check your location. So it's really interesting that at the moment, everybody gets access to data, because why not? I think in the future I can quite see this loophole being closed by this really interesting way of doing it. So again, not the most glamorous piece of dinosaur news, but I thought it was interesting. Now, this has got lasers in it, so everything's cool with lasers. And it's also got tractors and farming in it. So this is an automatic weeder. This is from Carbon Robotics, which is a great find. So thank you for suggesting this one. So this is an autonomous weeder. So it uses GPS to go up and down a field, and it uses computer vision to spot where the lettuce is, in this case, and where the weeds are. So it then zaps every single weed using a laser. It can zap 100,000 weeds an hour, and it can go for for forever, essentially. Well, it runs on diesel, which is unfortunate because I was hoping it was electric. However, it can it's autonomous, so you just let it go. It is clearly 100% organic, except for the diesel engine, and that's pretty much a cool robot. I quite like that. You may see this coming to a field near you. Actually, it was pretty cool. There you go. Android camera. So there is a new update to the beta release. So this is a beta 12.0.0, and in there's a new feature called camera switches. Now, if you have a physical or motor disability, you may use a switch, for instance, either a Bluetooth switch or a physical switch that you plug into a device that allows you to, for instance, use a muscle or potentially use your head or whatever it might need to be to control the device. You might remember, say, Stephen Hawking used to use one of these things and could scan and can type and do all sorts of really interesting things just with a single button. So it's a hugely liberating thing when you get it. However, you do tend to need a bit of hardware. However, in the new beta version of the Android operating system, there's a thing called camera switches, which allows you, as you can see on the left-hand side, to choose between USB switch, Bluetooth switches, and these new camera switches, which allows you to, say, open your mouth, to smile, to raise your eyebrows, look left, right, look up, for instance. These are the only ones available at the moment, but then you can assign things to it. So, for instance, when you say open mouth, go to home screen, and you can also join them up as well, so you can use two gestures to then start having sort of more and more complicated interactions. So I think that's really good. That's a great step forward for accessibility, or basic accessibility, in mobile phone operating systems. So like that, again, it's only in the beta version at the moment, but I want to see more of that. That's great. OnlyFans. So it's a website that is primarily, although not totally, really sort of taken over by, shall we say, adult content creators. That's not to mean that's the only thing it can do. If you, for instance, are a famous person or an athlete, then you can have fans of yours follow you. You create content, and then basically anybody who subscribes to you gets the content. Obviously, this is great for the adult industry. However, as of October, all of that adult content will no longer be on the platform. This is not a report saying, oh no, because I have no opinion on that particularly. But I thought what was interesting was the reason behind this. And it's really the bank or the digital bank providers. It's against their terms and conditions. Essentially, it's slightly prudish. They do not want anything to do with pornography or distribution thereof. So therefore, they say they will stop allowing payments unless everything is then taken off. So that's why. So the likes of, I think, also Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, etc., etc. So the reason I thought this was interesting is because clearly this is a form of censorship in some way. There are other payment providers available, but if you want to go with the major ones, they will not let certain types of content, although it is totally legal, happen. So they are using their opinion on whether it is savoury or not to close down one of the platforms that uses their payment technology. So it's not necessarily a government doing it or law enforcement, or whether it's against the law. It's a separate company saying that they don't like it, and therefore they will use the payment systems to essentially turn the tap on or off. So that's quite interesting. If you are a service provider, then depending on which side of that debate you're on, you could have your entire site cut off, or you might be in the position to cut somebody else's entire site off, depending on where you sit in the hierarchy chain. So I thought it was quite interesting. Not seen that before. But there you go. And finally, Elon Musk's Tesla bot. Now, this all looks very sleek. I'll tell you about it in a short time, but I'm just about to preface what's about to happen on screen, which is the launch event. This is the launch event. So this is what happened. This is the launch of or at least the unveiling of the concept of the Tesla bot. It was super embarrassing, as has happened to certain Tesla events, but there is basically a method to this. As we know, the only reason I'm even talking about this is because they did this. Did you even know that there was a Tesla AI Day? No, you didn't. Which is exactly why they did it. So now we're talking about it. So we're talking about the Tesla bot. So this is it's basically Elon Musk trolling us, really. Said it would be available next year, or it would be ready next year, whether it be available or not. And the point of this was, if you can get a robot that can take over human labour, labour becomes a choice, was his phrase. And therefore, with universal income, then everybody gets some money, and therefore everybody can essentially choose whether they want to work or whether they want to have leisure time, because all the labour will be sorted by these robots. So that was that. Clearly it's not going to happen by next year. Clearly that was more of a political statement, or at least a PR statement. So anyway, go and have a look at the video, because it is hilarious as it is slightly cringy. The full video is, there's actually a load of good stuff, I should say, in the event, all about autonomous driving, etc., and batteries and things like that. So go and have a look, but this was just super weird. There you go. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully that was useful. I will speak to you again next week.